Google sneaks onto your iPhone with cat gifs. Facebook just needs to go ahead and admit that it's biased. And where is your e-waste going? Probably not where you think it is. All that and more on Tech News Today.
This is Twit.
Bandwidth for Tech News Today is provided by CashFly at CACHEFLY.com.
This is Tech News Today, episode 1512, recorded Thursday, May 12th, 2016.
This episode of Tech News Today is brought to you by PillPack, a full-service online pharmacy that combines modern technology, convenient packaging, and personalized service to make your life easier. Visit pillpack.com/twit to save $20 on vitamins and OTCs when you transfer your prescriptions.
And by Wealthfront. Wealthfront is a low-cost automated investment service and the most sophisticated way to invest your money. Whether you've got millions or you're just starting out, visit wealthfront.com/TNT and sign up to get your free personalized investment portfolio. That's wealthfront.com/TNT.
This is Tech News Today, and this is the show where we talk about technology news, the trending technology news, as we choose it with our bias.
Careful.
I am Megan Morrone.
And I'm Jason Howell. Yes, I'm human, but I have no bias. I'm completely unbiased. I'm like an algorithm. I'm like an algorithm in here.
You got an algorithm all up in there?
Yes, exactly.
Totally.
Joining us today, once again, Owen J.J. Stone, a.k.a. Oh Doctor. How's it going, Oh Doctor?
You can't say Oh Doctor properly and be an algorithm. I know that for a fact.
Oh, really? Is this the kind of thing that stumps like Alexa and...
Algorithms can't say Oh Doctor, especially not the way I spell it. It's a horrible grammatization, destruction of the word.
Where did it come from?
Yeah, good
What
question.
kind of doctor are you?
I'm a like a psychiatrist doctor, technically speaking. I fix people. So in the 8th grade, my friend Brian, again, I always fix people, always helping people with their problems. And he was like, man, you're like a doctor. You're like, Oh Doctor. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. So then it stuck from the 8th grade on. I was sitting with Leo, and Leo's like, oh, where'd you get the name Oh Doctor? I told him, and he said, does your friend happen to be a baseball fan? And I'm like, he's a huge baseball fan. He's like, well, you know where he got it from, right? There was this announcer in like the 60s, and that's what he called home runs. He'd say, Oh Doctor. And I'm like, what? And then I got off with Leo. I called my friend. I'm like, did you steal my name? He's like, yeah. It's from something my dad used to listen to. Like, it was my dad's favorite saying, and it just went with your name. And I've been living my whole life being named after this baseball announcer guy, and I had no clue. And of course, Leo, the algorithm Laporte, he is the algorithm.
It's true.
Comes to telling me some stuff that I never knew, shattered my whole world. I thought I was an originator, and here I am, just some late night baseball call.
Wow.
So
your entire life was a lie known by millions.
I've been giving my buddy props forever. Like, you know what I mean? Like, Brian's going down in lore of why people call me that, and here he goes stealing.
Well,
just like the internet, you know, you put a little tag over the top of it.
Yeah.
I thought it was his.
But, you know, at the same time, though, I couldn't imagine you as anyone other than Oh Doctor. So, you know, no matter where it came from, it works.
Right? No stethoscope today, though.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let's doctor up the tech news a little bit.
Let's do it. Yeah, let's spruce it up.
I love third-party keyboards on iOS. Got my phone right here. I just wish that they were easier to use. Now, the new Gboard, that's a weird name, Google, I gotta say. It's a Google keyboard for iOS called Gboard. It lets you search. It offers predictive emoji, GIF search, and more. But cycling through the keyboards to get to it can be a huge pain in my fingers.
Yeah, so like I'm on Android, and it's the easiest thing in the world to swap out a keyboard. You just assign a default. It's the keyboard that comes up going forward, and you never have to think about it. But I've heard time and time again that even though iOS kind of included the ability to do alternate keyboards, it's still a pain. What's the biggest pain?
Well, you have to tap on a little globe, and then it always go. You know, if you have 4 or 5, like I've got my Bitmoji keyboard. I just installed the Bing keyboard on iOS, and so you just have to cycle through. I think it's begun to remember that I like using this because this is my favorite so far. Because you just press that little G, and you can search for anything, and then just put it right into a text message or whatever.
Okay.
So you're an Android guy, aren't you, Owen?
No, I am an iPhone crackhead for life. I am maxed out to the fullest, unfortunately.
So have you tried the keyboard?
I can't leave. I have not. I saw it today, and I kind of want it, and it's a great thing. It looks like a great idea. And I like the name, actually. I like Gboard.
You do?
I like Gboard. Like, what else are you going to call it, really? Like,
I don't know. I just, how do I say this?
Because they got me with their little video. I do this all the time. Who doesn't do what they're saying? Totally. Everyone does it. So if I could just do it with this little G on my phone, then that's great. Yeah. That's gangster.
But you can't. I mean, do you have third-party keyboards that you use right now?
I used to, like, when it was cool, and now I'm just down to, like, you know what I mean, my emojis and, you know, the little things. I don't use them anymore. I have them installed, but I don't use them like I used to. But this is something I could see myself using and needing in life.
Well, like I was tweeting, and, you know, my tweets are always way too long than they need to be, and I got to shorten them. And, you know, I was using the word fire, and it just brought up the fire emoji. It predicted that I needed it, which I never used that to replace the word fire. And then I got to fit all my words in. It was awesome.
Yeah, it cuts down on your character count.
See? Yeah. More fire.
Yeah,
look at that.
Exactly.
Yeah, makes you hipper with the younger set. And I got to laugh out of Greg on that one. One of the members of the younger set, by the way.
Yep.
Yeah, this is cool. Of course, obviously, one of the elephants that's in the room right now staring at me is the fact that it launched on iOS before Android, and this is a Google property. But this is not actually outside of the realm of what Google does. Sometimes they create things first for iOS, and then they roll it out eventually to Android. The first time that happened, it was very strange. Now it's kind of like, okay, you never really know which platform's going to get it first. I do know that Google has plans to bring this over to Android, but on Android, Google already has a keyboard app. It's called Google Keyboard. Maybe that's a better name than Gboard. But so I'm wondering if, when that happens, if it's going to be an integration into what they already have or whether it's going to be a separate app. But I think it makes perfect sense to have search where you're already typing. I like that.
Yeah, the other go ahead.
Sorry. No, I was going to say someone needs to copy this because this is ingenious. This is just magic in my phone.
Yeah,
and
Google's
I have a 6, so if I had a smaller phone, I could see being annoyed about it because my space is already limited. But on a bigger phone, like, that's just like gold in a box right there. It's amazing.
And on an iPad, too. Yeah. It works great on the iPad.
Like I said, no more cut and pasting. No more thinking about stuff.
No. Our lives are completely changed. One possibly controversial thing, not controversial, but weird, it has settings, and it automatically, by default, says block offensive words, which I thought was interesting. You have to turn that off if you want to use offensive words, if you want to type offensive words. I thought that was weird. Like, it seems like something that you would turn on. I don't know.
To block offensive words?
Yeah, from yourself, from typing them. Like, so, like, I don't know, you're using your keyboard to censor yourself because you're afraid you're going to drop the F-bomb when you shouldn't?
I was going to say, is it just cuss words? Or
I don't know.
What is this list of offenses?
I don't know.
What if I go to type in Donald Trump and it just blanks out my phone? I don't know.
Exactly. I mean, like, yeah, how does it know I'm going to offend people? I do it every day, and I have no idea I'm about to do it.
I feel like with my phone, and I use the Google Keyboard app, if I, every once in a while I swear. It's true. Even I swear. But when I do it, like, the first time, it corrects it to something else. It's like, no, you didn't actually mean to say that. That's a bad word. And I have to, like, accept it, and then it's kind of stored in the dictionary. So they might actually have precedent as far as that's concerned. Google just wants you to be a cleaner person, a better person.
Is Google a cleaner, better person? Because I can go to Google right now, and I could Google a whole bunch of googly stuff that's not clean and or personal.
Not to mention YouTube.
And before they look, hey, that's like your dad telling you to do what you're supposed to do, and he's out drinking in the club every night. Look, don't talk to me about what I'm doing. You worry about yourself.
Fair enough. All right, so moving from Google's choices for us to Facebook's choices for us. Yes. The saga of Facebook's trending news section continues. This time, documents leaked to The Guardian reveal that Facebook moved away from a pure algorithmic approach to story selection, starting in 2014 when Facebook was criticized for not including adequate news coverage of the situation that went down in Ferguson, Missouri. As a result, the leaked guidelines that we've seen reveal that human intervention exists with every stage of the process. Among the determinations made by human staff, according to this document, news editors can inject stories that they see as newsworthy and blacklist topics that they see as not representing a, quote, real-world event. Human staff must also monitor This document says 10 major news websites to determine if a story is leading on at least 5 of them in order to deem a story as important. But then a little bit later on today, Facebook VP Justin Osofsky tackled the pushback basically by posting an update on trending topics along with an FAQ to the Facebook newsroom site. There he confirmed that algorithms surface the news content, and that's followed by a review by the trending topics team. And regarding the protection of bias, he went on to say that Facebook explicitly prohibits choices that suppress political perspectives and prioritization of ideological viewpoints. He also listed 1,000 sites that Facebook monitors for trending news. Those include BettyCrocker.com and TigerWoods.com, by the way.
Are you serious?
I'm serious. Both of those are in there. But there's also a lot of, the things you would expect. But I mean, it's 1,000 sites. Yeah. So I don't know.
Sites is a core group of people. Yeah. And Tiger Woods and Betty Crocker should not be in the 1,000 site topic group at all. Point blank zero. You can't say you say 1,000 like it's a billion. You know how many websites there are? You know how many important websites there are? Maybe 5,000. And Betty Crocker and Tiger Woods are neither or. Like, what is Tiger Woods ain't put up a post in 8 years about anything relevant.
Yeah, I wonder.
See, look, this is why I don't talk about stuff, because it just makes me so angry. Like, just silly.
I don't know.
Silly
I'm going to Tiger Woods right now. I want to see what. Okay, so he has featured stories there.
Feature stories about what? Tiger Woods?
Yeah, pretty much.
Okay, because I didn't think Tiger Woods was breaking down the economic state of my country and what's going on in poverty and homelessness in America.
Yeah.
Or anything valuable.
So I think basically
in 8 years.
Basically, Facebook is saying people like Tiger Woods, and Tiger Woods news people are following, so why don't we get it from the source too? I'm guessing. Anyways, I don't know that for sure.
Or are they just trying to throw you off the scent while they make the news what they want to make it?
Could be.
Or they're being your parents of the internet and saying, you're not allowed to listen to this, Jimmy. This is bad for you.
Here, have a recipe for Betty Crocker.
You can't be a Republican, Jimmy. Here's a nice scone. Why don't you make scones today, Jimmy? That's what Facebook is doing.
Yeah, I mean, this is interesting because you don't get your news from Facebook, Owen, do you? I mean, that's I know that's not your only source of news.
Oh, it's my only source for news. I don't look at anything other. No, I mean, I look at the internet for my news because television is okay. Long story short, your television news is a bought medium source that is programmed and curated for you, and it's all generally the same avenues and topics. Mm-hmm. The internet is where you can go to say, well, I understand the internet is still made by these major companies that just go online. But there's also independent, smaller things that break news now or break stories that I can curate and find out myself. So when Facebook goes and says, hey, we're going to do some more of that curating for you, I'm like, you might as well be Fox News or CNN. You're in the tank. For who, I don't know, but it feels super shady. Mm-hmm. And for Facebook to come out and be devout saying, we don't do that. And then they come and say, well, we kind of do it. And we did it because of that whole thing they got. Like, You put her on a sympathy moment to make me feel some sort of way. And I could give a hootenanny. Yeah. You've messed up on many of things. I mean, you make flags for France and other poor countries have people died at twice the rate. I don't see flags popping up for them. So there's all kinds of things to bash Facebook about where they can fix it. But this saying, oh, it's the Ferguson thing, that's why we had to put people on it 24/7. Well, if the people are on there 24/7 and something else is being squashed, then whose problem is that? Whose fault?
Right. I mean, they made a decision, Ferguson over Ice Bucket Challenge. Okay, like they made a decision. Say you're making the decision. You get to make the decision. You're Facebook, But I mean, that's the thing. Like they are a media company, and they don't want to admit that. The same as Uber. Like Uber's not a technology. Uber's a company that has employees, and it's like all these huge companies are like, we're just a technology. We're just an app. We're just and it's like they're hiding behind the fact that they're just old-fashioned companies at the heart. When you get big enough, you are.
Yeah.
And they prove themselves to be this all the time. You can't tell me you're not a media company when you do your Facebook Live, go to a candidate and then say, hey, we're going to promote you on this as a live thing if you use us. Could you please use us? You're media. That's just like Fox or CNN saying, we want to host the debate. Can we please host your debate so we can get ratings and views? Like, you're a media company. So you want to play media company when you want to get traffic and views, but then when you mess up, you're like, well, we're not a media company. We're stupid. Like, you're not stupid. You're too smart for that. You own the brain trust of the planet, bro. Like, stop it. Like, you know what you're doing. Admit to it and either apologize or keep doing it. Say, hey, this is how we want to roll and this is what we want to do.
Yeah, it's kind of weird.
What are you going to do? Facebook is free. What am I supposed to do?
Right.
I don't like they're suppressing Republicans. Well, I'm not going to use Facebook. I mean, people boycott stuff all the time. They don't have to conform. I'm using a free platform, but they tiptoe around everything they do. We're not a media company. We are a media company. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, but
very shady.
It is, and I mean, because so many people use it to get their news. That's what's the other thing. Like 63% of Facebook users in the U.S. get their news from the platform. That was like last year. Probably it's a lot more now. More than 1 billion people all over the world get their news from there. So I mean, so it's fine for us to say this, but I mean, this is a lot of people that are getting their news from there. I had never even looked at the trending news section before this. You know, it just wasn't. It wasn't.
I mean, a handful of times I noticed that it even existed, let alone like using it as my standard source for news. But, you know, having said that, we're kind of outliers in this. Like, we have a career in tech news, so we have our own places that we go. Yeah. And those are actually selected and curated in some way, shape, or form as well. But it's how it's being presented, especially kind of like what you were saying, Owen, about the VP of Search, Tom Stocky. Like, literally, just wasn't it yesterday that he basically said, these allegations are false. We don't have human control. And then today they put out their official FAQ, and they're like, well, actually we do. And it's all of these things that happen.
And so how are you supposed to trust them?
Right.
You can't trust anybody. This is why if I had a foil hat, I put it on right now.
Oh, I wish you did.
It's just silly sometimes. I mean, again, you have a free platform, and you've done so many things with privacy and all these hoopla things that you've done. Just saying, hey, we do have somebody who curates. Maybe there was something in that we didn't find factual. Like, okay, well, we suppressed this thing about Ted Cruz because lying Ted Cruz isn't a real thing. So sorry, we didn't want to promote calling him a lion or a tiger or whatever like that. Like, there's all kinds of ways around it that you could be somewhat genuine as opposed to just blanket saying, we don't do that. And everybody knows you do it. Like, you have to do it. The same way you take things down and things get blocked. The same way that you allow people to put up stolen content because you don't care if they're getting millions of views because you're putting ads against those views. And even though a person complains post after post after post about your content being stolen, Facebook's like, well, what do you want me to get? I'll get around to it next year because they can fix it. If YouTube can have your video taken down like that with somebody else's content, what is Facebook's problem? The problem is they want that money. So as nice as they want to act and build planes for Africa and bring internet to Istanbul, they're just a greedy company trying to make money and dominate the world like everybody else.
Just like us. If I were in the same position, I'd be doing the same thing.
Oh yeah. if you were a big corporation.
Well, I'm secretly trying to dominate the world, but
okay.
At least
one episode at a time.
At least I'm honest.
Google Socks. It's coming.
Recode's Mark Bergen reports that Google really does have an Amazon Echo rival. Bergen's sources say its code name is Chirp. It will include Google's voice and search assistant technology. It will look like the on-hub router, which I have always said looks like the Amazon Echo, so I guess that makes sense. Google will would not comment on the story, but sources say we might get a glimpse into the functionality of the Chirp, but it's unlikely that the device will launch at next week's Google I/O. Although, Jason, I mean, would you rather have Google VR goggles or a Google Amazon Echo?
I don't know, to be honest. I would rather have both, actually. Both sound okay to me. I'm open to it.
How about you, Owen? Are you excited about a Google Amazon Echo?
I have been holding off on Amazon Echo, and now I feel like I'm smart for holding off on it. I know the joys of it. I know the power of it. But I also have this freaky problem with something listening to my home. I don't like it. Same reason I don't have an Xbox. I don't want something listening all the time. It freaks me out, and I don't like it.
So would you rather have Amazon listening or Google, or just neither?
I guess Google over Amazon, because Amazon's always trying to sell me something. Google's just trying to sell what I want to people, and Lord knows if they listen to what I want, then that's going to be a weird topic of conversation on a shopping list. So I guess I take Google over Amazon. I shop too much on Amazon. They'll be popping up everything I say.
Yeah, right.
Like, man, I'm tired. Would you like some energy pills?
Here, have a pillow. We'll sell you a pillow. We'll get it there in 2 hours by a drone.
Exactly. And I can neither confirm or deny if the FBI has hacked in to these Echoes, apparently. So, I mean, this is the world we're living in.
maybe not even just the FBI. Who knows what
or
else?
me. I mean, I already said I wanted to achieve world domination.
It's Megan's cottage industry is hacking into Echoes.
Right? She starts giving them out as her birthday presents around the office.
Here, free Echo. Aren't I nice? Yeah, I mean,
Google show yesterday, right?
Google's strength is search. So I think if Google comes out with this, and by the way, this isn't the first that we've heard of these rumors. I think Android Police months ago had some sort of rumors, and they said it was pretty likely in the process, but who knows if it was going to see a commercial release. Now I think what we're hearing is that yes, they're really kind of moving forward, and I think Google would be crazy not to, based on the success of the Echo. But their strength is search, and this is a search device. So it makes perfect sense. I think they'd actually deliver a pretty darn good product. But what's interesting to me is that I think when the Echo first came out, there were questions like, Google, why don't you do this? And I think their response, can't remember who it was, but I remember reading it, was, we don't have to do this. You've got your phone in your pocket, and it already does this wherever you happen to be. So isn't that more convenient? So it kind of, going in a different direction.
And I guess you can, that is true, because you can, at your Android OS, you can say, okay, Google, and then it pops up. And at least it won't be, I don't know, maybe it won't be another woman telling me what to do in my life. I don't know what's going on in the world, but apparently women get things done. Alexa, Cortana, Siri, like they're all just women bossing us all around and telling us how it is and what's what.
It's interesting that you see it that way, because I see it as like we're the ones doing everything for you. Do this, do that.
And this is the yin and yang of men and women. This is exactly how it works out.
Yeah, so I think that they also probably, I've heard, they were afraid that they didn't want a device like this because people wouldn't buy it because they didn't want Google listening to them. But I think it's going to be great, because not only are they good at search, they're good at voice recognition and machine learning and all the things that are involved in an assistant. So.
Well, and I do think that there's something to kind of being a little hesitant to invite something into your house, or even your phone for that matter, that has some sort of wake-up call that sends your audio, the words that you speak, to the cloud. Because, by the way, if you didn't know this already, and you have an Android device, and it has Google Now and voice search and all that activated, there are many times in my experience where it goes off unintentionally. It either mishears something, or it's in your pocket and you don't know what happens or whatever. You can go to the Google site and you can actually listen to all of the voice queries that you've ever made. And I guarantee you, if you do that, a third of those are intentional. The rest of them are unintentional, random things, and they're actual glimpses into your life. They're conversations. They're these weird things. So, I mean, I don't think it's all too strange to be at least a little hesitant in regards to this, and to just buy into it immediately.
I feel like everything's listening. That's why I don't like when people call me on like the Facebook phone. Not only do I reject their call, but if they're anywhere in my vicinity, I drive over and slap them in the face. I'm like, what are you doing? I already got Google checking my emails, and now you're going to call me? Well, I just said that. No, you do not make calls through Facebook, ever. I was on one call. Somebody mentioned something about pillows, and I had ads for pillows on the side of my Facebook for like the next week. And I'm like, see? And that's why you don't talk on Facebook. Somebody's listening. It could have been a coincidence. But I don't think it was. Listening.
All right. Well, I don't know if you've been following the mysterious case of the disappearing music from iTunes. People all over the internets are claiming that Apple is deleting music off their hard drive. They say it has to do with the fact that their iTunes Match subscribers, that's a paid service that replaces music you own with music that's available to stream in the cloud. Serenity Caldwell over at iMore has been following this story. She and Jason Snell from Six Colors both said at first that iTunes, while they admitted that iTunes and Apple Music are unnecessarily confusing, they both at first attributed the error to user error, the deleting issue. But today Caldwell writes that she thinks a bug in iTunes might be causing the problem. So, yeah, it's not a conspiracy. It is a bad bug. Apparently, the most recent version of iTunes, 12.3.3, contains a database error that affects a small number of users and does delete people's music. But it's not a conspiracy for you to keep Apple Music because they're deleting your music.
In the past, I seem to remember, I can't remember what the incident was exactly, but that's not a bug, that's a feature. In this case, that's not a feature, that's a bug.
Right.
Make up your mind, Apple. No, but that would really suck. That would really suck, especially like I'm a musician, so I have at least that to connect to this guy's situation where he had all this music that he created and it literally got replaced by, Apple Music's library of versions of those songs, I guess. Thankfully, I had a backup. I think that's really the big overarching takeaway from this is if you've got a large, media library or whatever, don't just depend on the fact that they're going, that these services are going to actually manage your media for you, especially if it's important to you that you never lose that library. Like, back it up. Backups are good. Mm-hmm. What do you think, Owen?
Scooter X in the chat agrees with you and says, back up your stuff. And I say, man, today, I know about this situation. So today I was trying to delete a song out of a playlist on my phone. And it came up with the convoluted, do you want it off of your phone or do you want to delete it from? And I swear, I'm a fairly smart person. I don't look at, the good looks makes you think I'm not that bright, but I'm actually kind of bright. I couldn't figure out what was going on and whether this is going to delete the song or not. I have all my stuff backed up, but I ended up just leaving it there because it made me anxious. And then I ended up just taking it off the phone, but it's still in the playlist on my phone. So, I don't know if you can see it, but fix yourself. There's little boxes here. Mm-hmm. And then the one song doesn't have the little box, meaning it's not on my phone anymore, but it still plays my playlist. So I'm like, how do I get you off my playlist? I don't care if you're somewhere on the phone, but I can't even get it out, even though I wanted it to. So I don't know what they're doing. There's still something wrong. I guess I'm just gonna have to delete it if I want it out of that playlist. But they need to do something because again, I hit remove from device, which means take it off my phone, and the little phone's gone, but the song's still on the playlist. And if I play it, it will come along and play that song. Yeah.
I think
so. I'm like, what are you doing?
Yeah, it's a really confusing interface based on, sort of based on iTunes, which was really old-fashioned anyway. So
and kind of confusing in its own right, I suppose, because of its age. Yes. Well, supposedly we're going to be getting a new kind of revision of Apple Music at WWDC, so we can look forward to that.
Yes, I do. Well, after the break, if you're thinking of upgrading and feeling good about the fact that you'll recycle your old device, think again. But first, let's take a minute to thank PillPack, the sponsor of this episode. PillPack is a full-service online pharmacy that will make you wonder why you ever settled for a traditional pharmacy. With PillPack, you'll never have to wait around for your prescriptions, never have to sort your own pills. You'll never have to chase down your doctors for a refill again. Their pharmacists take care of everything for you. PillPack uses advanced technology to sort all of your medications and vitamins by the date and time for each dose. You can also order inhalers, creams, and diabetes supplies, which come in refrigerated, easy-to-open packages. Shipping is always free. Their pharmacists are available 24/7, so that now you can speak with them from the privacy of your own home or on the go. PillPack has truly designed their pharmacy to make your life easier and have very quickly disrupted the pharmacy industry. What's great is that PillPack is compatible with most major insurance plans, including most forms of Medicare Part D, and their service is free. That means you only pay the copays set by your insurance provider. Here's what you can do. Visit pillpack.com/twit to sign up now. It only takes 5 minutes to get started. When you use our link and transfer your prescriptions to PillPack, you will get credit for $20 worth of vitamins and OTCs. That's pillpack.com/TWIT. So a 2-year investigation from the Basel Action Network, or BAN, has revealed that the toxic e-waste that we think is being responsibly recycled might be exported illegally to countries where it's sent to low-tech workshops and developing countries where it's often dismantled by children. Joining us to talk about this investigation is Lizzie Grossman, author of High Tech Trash, who wrote about this in The Intercept. Welcome, Lizzie.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks for coming on. So what sparked this investigation by BAN?
Well, BAN had known for actually well over 10 years now that a large amount of the electronic equipment, computers and so forth that people send out for recycling in this country is being sent overseas to China, to Africa, to other countries in Southeast Asia, around the world, where, as you mentioned, it has often been either dumped or dismantled in these very low-tech workshops with open burning, acid baths, smashing things up and leaving them to pollute the environment. And even though this kind of export is technically not supposed to go on, it has been continuing. The U.S. actually does not have any law that completely prohibits this export. There's certain components that are not allowed to be exported. The big cathode ray tubes that have a lot of lead in them are considered hazardous waste if they're not being handled properly. But BAN knew that this trade was continuing and that the federal government doesn't really have any provisions for tracking it. So they got a grant and decided to stick 200 GPS-enabled tracking devices on equipment that they dropped off at publicly available drop-off sites around the country, most of them commercial recyclers, some at Goodwill shops and other thrift shops and retailers. And they tracked where these things have gone around the world.
Wow. So were these phones or computers or both?
There were some, I believe there were some mobile devices, but there were computer screens, monitors, and printers. And honestly, I can't remember the entire list, but included printers, flat screens, and some mobile devices, yes.
And so what did they find? We've already talked about how they've gone to some developing countries. Like, where were they going? Were they going directly to these developing countries? What did they find as they tracked it?
They actually, as I think you've got up on the screen now, BAN partnered up with an MIT project. I think it's called the Sensible City Lab that has created these visualizations. And as you can see, they kind of hopscotched around, made some stops on their way out of the country. And these devices don't always go from where they're dropped off to their final destination, because typically what happens is these devices are dismantled, taken apart. So the different kinds of materials, glass, plastic, metals, can be reused, and those are different components get sent on to different places. And what BAN was able to do with these tracking devices is follow them kind of step by step on their travels, both through the country and then when they went overseas.
Is this a matter of kind of the middleman kind of problem? Like, I have to imagine a lot of the organizations that are doing this, like it's either happening and they're fully complicit with it, or maybe it's happening and they aren't necessarily directly sending to these places, but they're passing it through a middleman, and that kind of absolves them of having to be more concerned about it. Is that a piece of what's going on here by chance?
That's a huge part of what's been happening, because most recyclers aren't completely equipped to handle all these different materials. So they typically sell this stuff on, they pass it on to what gets referred to as downstream partners or downstream companies. And a really good, responsible recycler will actually make sure they know where this stuff is going every step of the way. But very often, companies don't ask, or they don't know. And I can't possibly generalize for all of them, but that exactly what you're describing has been a huge part of the problem, that people just don't know where the stuff is going.
Mm-hmm.
So you wrote your book, High Tech Trash, in 2006, and you have a second edition that you wrote. I mean, what's changed as you've been covering this?
I mean, 2006 was before, like, the crazy boom that we've had in smartphones.
Exactly. It's a long time ago. And some things have changed a lot. When I first started working on the book, when I asked retailers or big manufacturers about recycling equipment, very few of them had programs up and running. Retailers had no idea what to do with this stuff. Most cities and states had no programs for electronics recycling and no bans on landfill. So that stuff has changed a lot. And there weren't these certification programs for recyclers to work with that make them pledge to uphold certain standards. None of that existed. So a lot has changed, but at the same time, we're still exporting this stuff to where labor is cheap. And as apparently right now, prices of the materials are not fetching high prices. So everybody's looking for really cheap labor costs. And that hasn't changed at all, unfortunately.
Well, you write that the EPA says the U.S. generates 3.14 million tons of e-waste, but yet there's no e-waste law. Is that something that you see happening anytime soon?
You know, I have no idea. Really what happened in the past 10 years is that states stepped in because it's local governments for the most part that handle solid waste regulations, and what you can put in your trash wherever you live and what can go to the dump, that's handled locally. And I'm sort of beyond the scope of what I can estimate as to why this hasn't happened, but we don't have a national law. And the other thing that hasn't happened is that the U.S. is one of the few countries in the world that hasn't ratified an international treaty that prevents the export of hazardous waste from richer to poorer countries that would help stop this kind of export.
Well, are there any questions that people can ask when they bring their e-waste to a recycler? Is there anything that like an average person can do to hope that it's going to a safer place than what you talk about?
I think one of the things that people can do is take their used equipment back to the manufacturer, use the manufacturer's recycling program, because one of the big principles that people like Ban and others who've been working in this as environmental advocates have been pushing is responsible design and making the producers have some real sort of stake in what happens to the used equipment. So it's also a big brand thing. If you take your computer back to one of the big name manufacturers, it looks really bad for them if something goes wrong. If you take it to, corner recycler, not such a big deal.
That's interesting that you say that. I've just never been that aware that you could do that. Owen, is this kind of something that you were even aware existed, that you could send your old electronics back to like the creators of that technology and have them do something useful with it?
Yeah, you can do that. Apple has a very active recycling program. In fact, I talked to them for this story, but there wasn't room to put it in. They've just developed some kind of robot that can take apart cell phones for recycling.
Oh, that's right. Well, yes.
Liam, the recycling robot.
Dell, HP, Samsung, they all have active recycling programs, and they're not well advertised.
Yeah,
they're not that easy to use sometimes. And there's the whole data security question and getting your stuff off your devices that kind of stops people, but they all have programs.
Oh, and did you know about this?
I know about everything. Yeah,
of course. Of course you do. Of course.
First of all, the rage in my heart, because, you see on 60 Minutes, there's been so many stories about kids that live on these trash computer islands where they're just walking across floating computers and keyboards, stuff like that. So Lord knows we know that things aren't always getting recycled the way they are. But to your question about stores, one of the major places you could take your things to be recycled is Best Buy. I know we order everything. Everybody who knows anything about tech orders everything off Amazon, gets it to your house. But if you go into a Best Buy store, right in the front, they have like a 3 or 4 section bin, and it'll say like keyboard, monitor, computer, whatever. And if you take it in, they'll actually wipe your computer if it's still active. If it's dead, they won't do anything for it. They'll just say, put it down and we'll recycle it. So that's like the place where I take my recycling. And they also do promotional things where like, bring in any tablet. It could be broken or dead or whatever, and they'll give you $25 off the purchase of a new tablet or something like that. They run those promotions all the time. So that's why when people ask me to recycle stuff, I always just tell them to go to Best Buy.
I guess
that's a big enough brand that I assume hopefully
I mean,
they're supposed to do.
Well, and I mean, I guess that's the clincher right there, is that we assume that it's happening the way that they say it is. How do we know? Like how are we?
As she was saying, larger brands like that would not look really good on Apple or a Best Buy or an HP. Like that's a major company, and if you're telling me to bring me my stuff to recycle it, I expect you to be doing the right thing, and you're making a pretty penny. You should be able to do it. Again, a lot of the things they offer, so a lot of things they offer you is to get you to spend more money. So I assume that they're using that little bit of money to advocate and hopefully do the right thing. If you bring in an old Xbox or something like that, they give you like $35 towards the purchase of a game or something like that. Like everything always has some kind of exchange program where they give you just enough money to spend in the store to where you buy something outrageously priced. You know what I mean? But a lot of things have those like little values to them. So that's where I go.
But Lizzie, you mentioned that one of the places they followed was Goodwill, right? I mean, Goodwill was one of these places that you thought the recycling was going somewhere and it wasn't.
Right, and that's and Goodwill, Dell has been a partner with Goodwill for quite some time, and it's not every single Goodwill store, but quite a number of Goodwill stores. I think it's called Dell Reconnect or Dell Connect, and some of the trackers that Ban put on devices that they dropped off at Goodwill did end up overseas. And I don't know if Dell has had a chance to fully respond to this yet. They hadn't by the time I contacted them, but I would assume they are going to be responding and looking into this.
Well, Elizabeth, thank you so much. Lizzie Grossman is a freelance journalist. This piece is in The Intercept. We'll have a link in the show notes. You can read the entire piece, and then also links to the ban research and also I think, a PBS special about this if you want to learn more. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Take care.
Okay, bye.
All right. Bill in Huntsville writes about how he's cut down his cell phone costs. Of course, he wrote TNT at twit.tv. He says, a few months ago, I replaced my Galaxy S3 on Verizon with a Nexus 6P on Google's Project Fi. I'm retired. Most of the time, I'm connected via Wi-Fi. I found that I use very little cell phone data. If in fact, I have turned off cellular data and only turn it on as needed. Since Google prorates data, I frequently pay less than $1 for data. My monthly Project Fi bill is $20 for unlimited calls and messages, about $1 for data and $5 for device insurance. My monthly Verizon bill has been cut from about $120 to about $60. That's pretty sizable. My wife and her brother still use flip phones and don't require a data plan. He pays half of the Verizon bill. I gave my Galaxy S3 to my granddaughter after she broke the screen on her Galaxy S5. So lots of managing old devices there. That's another great way to kind of cut down on all this waste, right? Is to take those old devices, and we've been talking about this. It's like a recurring theme for the past week or so. Take those old devices and put them to use in other ways. They don't just necessarily have to be thrown away just because they're not useful to you directly anyways. Up next, your hard work for your money. The problem, according to France, is that you never stop working, and maybe you should. You're working a little too hard, so maybe you should take a break. First, let's take a minute to thank Wealthfront, the sponsor of this episode. Wealthfront, you invest for your long term, for you, for your family's financial health. That's why you're investing, is to kind of improve your future. But trying to do it yourself, especially the right way, it's complex, it's time consuming, and luckily, there's Wealthfront to help you with it. Traditional advisors charge huge fees between 1% to 3% of what they manage. With Wealthfront, you pay 1/4% a year. That's 25 basis points, 0 commissions, and no hidden fees. That's less than $5 a month to invest a $30,000 account. There are no additional charges for any of Wealthfront's services. With Wealthfront's new portfolio review, you can actually see if your portfolio is at risk, how diversified your investments are, what you're losing to fees, even minimize your taxes. You can get started investing today with as little as $500. It only takes a few minutes to sign up as well. That's wealthfront.com. It goes right to work, monitoring your portfolios around the clock, taking action as soon as an opportunity arises. Wealthfront is transparent and accessible, which means you can view and track all of your accounts in one single place. And now Wealthfront can actually track both your Wealthfront and your non-Wealthfront bank and brokerage accounts that they'll provide in a summary of all your assets. You can also see every trade that Wealthfront makes on your behalf in your dashboard on your desktop or with their mobile app. Wealthfront's process is based on Nobel Prize-winning academic research and the best investment practices. We've heard from many Twit fans who've used Wealthfront and love how they can diversify their portfolios and buy stocks from in-demand companies that we are talking about every single day on this show: Apple, Amazon, Facebook, and more, all commission-free. Wealthfront manages almost $3 billion in client assets, and it's growing rapidly every single day. So what are you waiting for? Invest in your future today with Wealthfront. Visit wealthfront.com/TNT. You can sign up and get your free personalized investment portfolio. You'll actually see the customized allocation that they recommend for your profile. And just for Twit listeners, if you sign up to invest, Wealthfront will manage your first $15,000 entirely free of charge for life. Join the many Twit fans who have seen huge success with Wealthfront and claim your offer today. Just go to wealthfront.com/TNT.
TNT's fan of the day is Vance Weaver, a.k.a. Handyman Vance, who writes, I listen every morning on my iPod.
What's an iPod?
I know. He says, what do you mean? Who uses an iPod? I'm not going to run down my Samsung S3 battery. It barely makes it through the day. I hear ya. I'm listening to podcasts all day long while I repair drywall, install ceiling fans and garbage disposals, build shelves, paint, fix broken doors, hang pictures and doors, and make people's homes nicer than they were.
Nice.
Thank you. Show us how you watch or listen to TNT. Just record a video or take a picture of yourself or your setup and post it on Instagram, Google+, Twitter, or Facebook, and use the hashtag HowIWatchTNT, and we will find it.
Our old iPods have become our young kids' phones, in air quotes. So that's what we did with our old technology.
You leave handyman alone. I still rock my iPod 160 gig in the car when I want to actually use my phone and not just listen to music. And the music quality is better coming off the iPod anyway. We sound crisper in his ear.
Yeah. It's like we're standing right there watching as he fixes up all the homes and
judging him for using an iPod.
You missed a spot up there.
The reason why I can't listen to podcasts on my iPod anymore is like I literally have PTSD from like all the hours I spent hooking it up to the computer,
waiting to sing.
And, like I had this very like, OCD podcast playlist. That's a lot of acronyms for my podcast listening. But yeah, and so I just am so excited to never have to think again, just to bring them up whenever I want. But we still have iPods too, and I love them.
Well, we've got them bouncing around the house. All right, some see access to the internet as a human right, and some see disconnecting from the internet as a right in and of itself. François Hollande, France's Socialist Party president, is near a vote on a measure, I'm pretty sure I've slaughtered his name, by the way, sorry about that, that will ensure companies of more than 50 people institute evening and weekend hours during which staff are not required by their employer to manage company email. With studies pointing to a rise in work-related stress and the constant state of connection to work, thanks to the internet, the disconnection clause actually aims to untether workers from the electronic leash that threatens their relationships and well-being, or so they say. And actually, there are a lot of workers on the other side of this that say that laws like this will actually make them uncompetitive in these places due to restrictions like this. So I don't know. Do we, I don't know. What do you think? Is this worth instituting outside of France? Do we want this?
I want to do it on a personal level.
Yeah.
I would like to disconnect more often at home. But yeah, no, not on a government level.
Yeah. What do you think, Owen?
Like, I need one more thing to find or ticket me in my life. I don't need anything else in my life that could possibly give me a ticket. I mean, I live a work-free lifestyle. I'm on this whole just live it off the energy of the universe thing. It's working out pretty good. So I understand the stresses and the evils of work and pressure. But again, the personal choice. Most people have an addiction to their phones and things of that nature now. So even if you pass the law, people aren't going to be able to stop looking at their phone 24/7. So if you're already looking at your phone, you might as well check the email and make sure nothing came in, nothing's on fire. So just don't make it law, because then people need to get fined. How are you going to regulate it? How are you going to check it? Somebody going to pop up in your room in the middle of the night talking about, what are you looking at? Personal email, work email? Show it to me. Show it to me. Like,
the only way we can make that determination is to filter your email and read it.
Exactly. And companies really want them doing that. Sure, I'll let, oh, Lord, like I said, I need one more thing to regulate, governate, and ticketate in my lifestyle. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I remember when you first could check your email from work, like at home. Like, it was just this wonderful thing.
It was liberating, and then we realized, wow, we've let them in, and now it's a constant thing. I mean, when I get home, often what I do is I put my phone on the top of the fridge, behind the bag of potato chips, and it stays there for hours. And it's beautiful. I could concentrate on life.
So you go to the potato chips first, if you like.
Well, no, I guess it has nothing to do with the potato chips, except that it's hiding my phone from both me and my kids' view. Because if they see a phone, like their first instinct is to grab it and go to YouTube or something. So I get it out of their reach, out of my reach, and after a little while, I forget about it. The problem, I think, for a lot of people is that they aren't allowed to do that. Like, their jobs require them to be tuned into work at all times. And I don't know, I think that's kind of unfortunate. It's totally a result of our currently always connected kind of lives on the internet. I wish we could change that, but yeah, I agree. Regulating it, maybe not the best way to go, because it's not going to change a lot of people's behavior.
Could you just turn off the alerts on your phone, Jason? What if I needed you and I called and the potato chips are rattling and you don't know and you're not there to help me? Don't do that. Don't do it. You have children. Your phone needs to be on you or in your vicinity 24/7, unless you're out with your children. If you're out with your children, chuck it in a lake. Nobody cares. If everybody's going down, you're going down together. You know where the kids are. But don't you turn your phone off on me. I'm going to start randomly calling and checking. If you don't answer this phone, we're going to have problems, Jason.
And then he's going to start calling you through Facebook and telling your secrets.
Yeah.
See? Look. Answer my call. Answer my call.
Look, if it's in my pocket, the temptation is there. That's the problem. That's why I get it away.
I'm trying to get you to the higher level of Zen, bro.
All right.
You're a grown man. I'm trying to get you to control your own space.
Okay, all right.
Turn on the notifications, put it on silent, put it in your pocket. But if I get the calling, you better answer the call.
If Owen JJ Stone's knocking.
Hey, look, I tell you what, the internet will get on you if something happens to me, and they be like, he probably called Jason, and Jason didn't answer. And that's happening. No. Oh man, it's gonna be a rough lifestyle for you.
I'm sorry. Okay, fine. I'll always have my phone on me at all times.
Is that how easy it is to convince you of something that you feel so strongly about?
Well, no, I'm just saying it.
You are a doctor.
Don't make me come over there. Don't make me get on you.
See, this is what I'm afraid of. He's gonna come over here.
Exactly. Dangerous.
Well, Owen, thank you so much. As always, it's been informative, hilarious. What's another?
And there've been some scary moments too.
Yeah, threatening lives. You know, I appreciate you guys tolerating me, putting up with me. I sound happy. I like a loony person. I'm either ranting or saying down with the government, or I'm talking about people's lives and cats and stuff. So I appreciate you still calling me up to the big leagues.
Oh man,
and let me hang out.
All right,
you're always awesome.
Yes,
we really
thank
appreciate
you so much. And ODoctor on Twitter. IQMZ.com, and just Owen, just call. He's out there in the universe.
Just call out. Yes, just call out his name, and suddenly he'll appear. It's usually how it works. Thanks, man. We'll talk to you soon.
Thanks.
All right, TNT records live every Monday through Friday at 4 p.m. Pacific, 7 p.m. Eastern, 12 a.m. UTC at twit.tv/live. You can be a part of the show by emailing us. That's tnt@twit.tv. Easy to remember. Or leave us a short voicemail, 260 TNT Show, and find us on Twitter. We're at Tech News Today TV.
If you can't watch the live show, you should subscribe to the audio or the video version. You can be the first one to get it. Go to twit.tv/TNT and leave a review on iTunes if you're on iTunes. That's how you can help other people find us. And if you want to tweet at me, I am at Megan Morrone.
And I'm at Jason Howell. Just call out Megan Morrone or call out Jason Howell, and there we will appear. That's just how it works on the internet. Thanks to our technical director, Kara Cole, and all the folks who help us produce the show every single day. And thanks to you for talking tech with us today. See y'all tomorrow. Bye.